Hi, I'm David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. It's a Tuesday, and I'm back with our founder and chief editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
Hey, I'm happy. Had a good weekend. We will. I had a great weekend. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I'm thinking I need to come up with a bigger title for you. I don't think founder and chief editor is enough. I think we need to have
Um,
something like the Buffalo appraiser of the great grasslands or something like that.
nah, not really. I mean, okay, my Facebook has a bison on it, right?
Right.
And there's
Yeah.
there's a complicated reason that has to do with blockchains and crypto gaming and all that, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. I mean, if I wanted, we
No,
could
I
probably
know.
we could talk about my I've racked over my mead to my second fermentation, so I've got that happening. But we, let's
Yeah.
talk about electric vehicles.
Yeah, we certainly talked about animals and planes and how we get segued off on the World War II fighter planes. But to be fair, people in the chat ask questions about World War II planes somehow when we're talking about electric aviation. And the next thing you know, we're off on a wild tangent. All right, let's talk about GM and the Bright Drop van.
Yeah,
This is really
this is hot news. This just happened.
yeah.
Well,
So
just happened. I saw it, but
yeah.
uh,
Well,
so so what happened is that due to changing regulations and a slow demand for the product, General Motors has announced that they are no longer going to be producing their electric Bright Drop van, which has been produced at their Ingersoll plant in Ontario, Canada. So I thought, well, maybe they've got another plant that they're making it somewhere, and they're just moving it out of Canada. But no, they're ceasing. Apparently, at this point, they're ceasing production of the van.
Well, it's interesting because when you look at e-commerce, you see Amazon. Amazon has all the electric Rivian vans, right?
Yep.
Now, Walmart chooses a different route. Walmart doesn't really have vans per se. They have a lot of delivery. They have a service that runs kind of like Uber Eats that I can't think of the name of it right now, but people go and they pick up the stuff at Walmart and they deliver it for Walmart. Okay, much like an Uber or Lyft type service
Okay.
or DoorDash kind of thing like that. Target is adopting the Amazon model to have their own electric vehicles go to make deliveries from target.com and stuff like that, because it's going to be so much more common for people to order their groceries and have them delivered, right? And
Yes.
so Target picks Chevy Bright Drop for their next electric delivery vehicles at the same time that
General
GM's
Motors
announcing they're going
announces.
to close the facility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you'll notice in the article that Copilot and I wrote that Walmart was using Bright Drop vans. There's a photograph of one being charged out in the back of a Walmart somewhere. So they had them. Of course, we know also Walmart has been looking at Tesla for their large over the road semi type vehicles. Tesla has said that they're going to build a similar type of delivery van, but we haven't, it's like the Roadster, maybe it'll develop, and maybe if,
honestly, it probably makes more sense than the Cybertruck, right?
oh yeah, no kidding.
I mean,
So maybe they could take, and adopt the chassis and platform and build a real van out of that, instead of this silly looking kid's toy that's running around on our roads here. So
yeah, it just can't be $80,000, but but I find that kind of fascinating. We've got this deal with Target, and the thing is, there had been some news that maybe that Chevy van was the most cost-effective electric van on the market too. And so it just seems strange, but you said Mary Barra is having issues with the tariffs, and a part of that has to do with the fact it's being made in Canada, right?
right, yeah,
So,
made in Canada. Of course,
can I freeze up?
tariff, who knows where, who knows where Taco will take it next, so.
Bill, I may crash out. My browser is doing something.
You're having some issues on your end there, and so far I haven't had any. So if you want to,
it's on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So bear with us, folks. We're having technical issues here, so I should probably go over and check out. Let's see. While we're, let's see, maybe we can get Yogi to edit this out. Yogi is our gentleman in India who does a lot of our editing and things for us, so we can deal with that. I don't know whether it's Dave's phone that's doing this or we both have the same internet connection, so maybe I seem to be working for once. Normally, it doesn't quite work that way, but. Yeah. So anyway, it's interesting that there are alternatives. Because GM is dropping out, it doesn't mean that there are no vans. Of course, we have Rivian, which has their their van that Amazon uses, and that has now they've made that I think in February of 2025 of this year. They said anybody now can buy them. They're not just reserved for Amazon. So that's an option that. That Target could look at. There's also the Mercedes-Benz Sprinter van, which is manufactured here. Again, as I mentioned earlier, there's the rumored delivery van that Tesla is supposed to be making. So there are other options. I think there was a firm in California that was doing some type of a van, but you haven't heard a lot about them. There was a small startup. So we will see. There's a need there. Somebody's going to step in and fill it. I would suspect it's either going to be Sprinter or it's going to be Rivian that'll fill that need.
Well,
Dave, you back with?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's more to it. You remember how a couple of years ago we were talking a lot about Mullen Automotive? Well, they finally they didn't exactly shut their doors, but there keeps being more and more adjustments. More and more investors are calling for something bad to happen to the CEO. It's
like what?
I don't know.
He gets replaced, which means he goes and finds something else to do with his time, and somebody else steps into those shoes, or something more drastic.
The thing is, I realized he was doing. There were some things with the company. He was able to not go broke while investors lost 99% of their money. Yeah. But the company bought all of these assets at a great deal. I remember they bought the Nikola battery production. Right. There have been a couple of things. They bought GM's facility that used to make Hummers, the old gas Hummers. Right. And there was just several things they did that to me looked like pretty good moves. They were putting assets on the books and all that. And then I don't know, they still got their Tunica, Mississippi facility that's making vans similar to, or is capable of making vans similar to these, but they're just not catching on. I don't know what they've done wrong.
They bought, I'm trying to think, what is the name? They bought the
Bollinger.
They bought Bollinger.
They're going to start operating as Bollinger. They're going to stop operating as Mullen and start operating as Bollinger.
Yeah, because wasn't Bollinger developing a van of some type based on their earlier, Land Rover looking type of platform? I thought they were doing that.
Yeah. I don't know. I really have never figured out exactly what they're doing. Nathan, we're actually going to talk about the e-Sprinters in a little bit. So oddly, there's a lot of van news today, but yeah, so there's some positive news on the e-Sprinter today as opposed to the negative news on the GM one, but we'll get to that here. And I actually know what's, well, I have it, if I can find it. So DHL, who I keep thinking has left the United States, they came in a big way a few years ago, remember? One of the challenges is DHL is we talk about the idea of socialism and national socialism and some of that. A lot of your European countries own big parts of big manufacturers. Like France owns a big part of Airbus.
Right.
Germany owns a big part of DHL. Now, Trump is trying to make it so like the US will own 10% of NVIDIA and a few other companies like Intel.
Right.
I think he's trying to do it with Intel.
Yeah, and they did it also with that large lithium deposit in Nevada.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, I think they put some money in. That was the stipulation. That
they get okay.
At least it's been proposed. Whether it's actually happened or not, I don't know. But it was proposed.
Well, some of the things, a lot of these countries have these sovereign wealth funds, and they're able to support various parts of the government and some of the social programs they have because they own parts of successful companies,
right?
And they're able to say this money goes to this. And, like you take our Social Security, it's supposed to come from the money that we put in previously, is supposed to be available to us later on,
right?
Because it's compounded over the years, but it's never sat there and compounded. It's always, that's just not the way the U.S. government works, right? And so, but a lot of these
unfortunately, Warren Buffett wasn't managing it.
Right, there you go. But I've seen these arguments. Like the United States has 38 trillion in debt. Okay,
yeah.
But if you look at it on a balance sheet and you look at all of the real estate assets of things the United States owns, maybe we also have 500 trillion in assets. Yeah. That's one of the arguments I've seen. And so if you were a corporate balance sheet, well, then you have a positive net worth of like $470 trillion. That doesn't sound like a bad thing, right? So the United States, in a sense, is still very wealthy, even if we have this. But there's still something bad about how the debt compares to the gross domestic product,
right?
All of that. But anyways, this whole thing, though, DHL came into the United States and sort of unfairly, with the benefit of the German government, competed with UPS, United States Postal Service, and FedEx. Now, the Postal Service is technically a monopoly. You can't just deliver letters. If the postage stamp is 50 cents, which I'm not even sure what it is right now,
yeah, it's more
you have to charge 4 times that, which is at least $2 to run a similar service in the United States. The post office is protected for letter carrier style delivery. But now what's happened is, and this has been going on for 20 years, all of the overnight delivery companies pay the Postal Service to do some last mile delivery for them.
Right.
Where they'll deliver to the post office guy delivers the packages. And that's why a lot of times you see your post office guy now delivering on Sundays with your Amazon packages.
Right.
And they're not delivering mail, they're delivering Amazon.
Exactly.
But anyways, DHL is a German company, so they're buying the Mercedes e-Sprinter and they're deploying them in the United States. So DHL Express US launches first Mercedes e-Sprinter vans in the US. They're expanding electric fleet. You would think it would be hundreds or thousands, but to start with, it was only 45.
Yeah.
That they're trying out. But I didn't know DHL was still a thing in the United States. I thought we'd ran them out. I don't even remember which administration ran them out, but I remember they were a thing in the mid 2000s, like 2005 to 2008, somewhere in there.
Well, and remember, this is about the time also the rise of Amazon, and Amazon begins doing their own deliveries and things. So,
yeah. So we know the success Amazon's having with Rivians. Okay, that's working out really well for them.
Right.
Like I've said before on here, I've talked to drivers. The drivers feel they're being punished if they have to drive a gas vehicle because it's such an inferior experience.
Oh, yeah.
That it doesn't really make sense. And anyways, but DHL has been running some of these, and they say that while the e-Sprinters only have a 208-mile advertised range, they get 240. So, but some of that is the way they drive them, right? I mean, if they're not driving them 200 miles a day.
You're not driving them, and I assume there's probably regenerative braking on them, which takes some of that kinetic energy and, puts it back in the form of electricity into the battery. I mean, I just recharged my Bolt over the weekend. I got down to where I had maybe 25% state of charge left and charged it up. And guess what? 312 miles. of
Right.
range. You know,
No,
so
I got a funny one for you on this one.
okay.
Okay, stop babying your EV. Hard
Yes.
acceleration actually
Yes.
extends battery life by up to
Yes.
195,000 miles. So
Miles. Yep.
yeah, so this article was kind of funny. Stanford's Nature Energy study says that real world driving extends EV battery life by 38%, adding roughly almost 200,000 miles beyond lab predictions. And part of this is because people accelerate faster than
Hmm.
in lab conditions. And they're saying this actually helps the battery. And pulses and pauses slow chemical degradation. And so it's saying it's not efficient.
Yeah. So
And
if you look at the illustration that I asked Copilot to, you know, do this, it was based on my experience of sitting in a traffic light over here at 96th Street and Highway 370, the light, and sitting next to a Mustang, right? A gasoline Mustang. And my little Fiat beat pants off of that Mustang across the intersection. So, so every now and then I give it a pulse, right?
yeah.
To extend the and improve the battery life. Yeah, it's a fascinating article because what happens is when they were testing these in the lab, right?
Mhm.
General Motors, Ford, whoever labs they were doing it in, they were just having this steady drain, steady recharge, steady drain, steady recharge to see how the batteries would respond. They weren't actually initially they weren't actually putting them into sort of that kind of a driving cycle. And they found that once you start going through a normal driving cycle where the guy in the EV says, I'm going to beat the Mustang off to my right and show them what my little car can do, that turns out that's actually helpful to. I don't want to encourage people to speed
No,
or
I get it.
jackrabbit
I get it.
start,
But
but
it's
it
interesting to
actually
see.
helps. Yeah.
Officer, I've got to drive faster to make my battery
Right.
last longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Nathan, I want to thank you for posting that because it's good. It's nice to see somebody's got some real world experience with seeing, that's what the article was
Thank
saying.
you.
Yeah, because we don't have any experience with driving vans. So,
No.
that's something different.
Well,
Or
I had
tractor trailers.
a Honda minivan. Does that count?
Well, no.
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't electric. It was just gas, and I eventually got rid of it and shifted over to the Fiat. So
I have this friend who has 6 kids. He's a tennis friend. He's a physician here in town. He's got a Sprinter that's customized with. It's got a bed in the back. It's got the front 2 seats like you normally have, and then it's got it's either 6 or 8 captain's chairs. Okay. And this thing is long. I mean, it is a really big vehicle to be parking in a parking lot.
Right.
But this guy is a pro at it. And he drives all over the country with his kids and stuff. And it's really, it's kind of comical seeing this thing drive around because he really does have, I bet whenever I've been in it, there's been a lot of people in it. Okay, yeah. And it's always hauling a crowd, but it's not electric.
Is this for tennis tournaments?
Yeah, he's a tennis guy. Yeah, and but it's just funny to see how many people can sit in that damn Mercedes Sprinter. It is a big vehicle.
Extended cab, not cab, but extended bed one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tall and as long as I think that vehicle can get.
Yeah.
But he'll park it in sort of normal parking spots, but it'll be sticking out in the back.
Yeah.
Because it's long, but it's it's unique. It's got all the TVs in there and different stuff. I mean, it's nice, but it's still he's like I said, he's got 6 kids, so they travel in that thing. And
well, speaking of kids, I learned that one of the more famous automotive writers, John McElroy, I think he wrote for pardon, John, if you're listening, I can't remember exactly. It was a Car and Driver or one of those magazines. Turns out he posted a picture of him with his siblings. 8 kids and 7 boys, and looks like, and 1 girl. So that was like, I commented, "Holy McElroy, 8 kids." That's, that was typical big family. I mean, my grandparents, that's how many kids, my aunts and uncles, that's how many kids they had. But it's unusual to see where you got a family with that many children. So anyway, yeah.
But the article said, basically try to avoid charging to higher than 90%, especially avoid letting it sit in a charging state when it's at 100.
Yeah.
So avoid, letting that happen, and you'll have a long battery life. But I thought that was, it was kind of funny saying, hey, you don't have to drive slow in your EV to make it really.
No, have fun have safe fun every now and then.
Right. And especially if you're on to our next article, and you get the BYD Hypercar, the Yangwang U9 Extreme electric hypercar. They got it going around a track at 308.4 miles per hour. Man, you can't go that fast in most private planes.
No, I can't imagine going that fast, that close to the ground. Wow. I'm glad. Yeah.
Yeah. So they beat the previous speed record for a production car, which was set in 2019 by Bugatti's gas-powered Chiron Sport 300 Plus. Mark Bassing was a race car driver who pulled off the winning run, credited the power, stability, and control of electric vehicles, along with BYD's engineering, for the fact that the U9 Extreme is now at the top of the speed podium. Let me see what I've got here for images.
Yeah, it's as you would imagine, it's a slick, low to the ground. Yeah, you'll probably see there you go. Yeah.
496 kilometers, 1200 volt architecture, 3,000 horsepower. Wow, 30,000 RPMs. Let me see. On the Nürburgring, it did just under 7 minutes. Let's see. BYD Blade battery. We got a little PowerPoint going on here, folks.
Yeah.
I was hoping for more pictures of the car.
Wow.
I like it. Tires designed for 500 kilometer speeds. Well,
yeah, you want that thing to be in ground effect, stuck to the ground, and those tires keeping it there.
Right.
I cannot imagine going 300 miles an hour. Happens all the time when I'm flying in an airplane, a jet at 35,000 feet, but no, not at not that close to the ground.
It's going to be limited production. There's only going to be about 30 of them available. They're going to be about $12,000 each. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're going to be at least $500,000, but I really don't know.
At least, if not more. Yeah. Because typically cars like that, you're looking at $2-3 million bucks. Yeah.
Right.
Rimac, for a while, Rimac was the fastest, and that was like $1.5 million, something like that.
Right. I'm just saying, it's just so funny when we see a BYD car and you get the price tag, and it's like, what? How?
Yeah. It's not a seal or a dolphin.
Yeah. I mean, there's expensive bicycles that sometimes it costs more than some of these BYD cars. And you get a really expensive 10-speed made for racing. It might be more than the BYD seal. I mean, or dolphin or one of them. Yeah. They just get so cheap. But anyways, that's just kind of crazy. 308 miles per hour. All right, let's get to our main topic that we always wait for. It's the aviation portion of the show.
Goody.
And this is something I talk about, not on the air, but in other spaces, is these opportunities when somebody who's sort of a leader in a space goes bankrupt.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to
I know where you're going.
purchase their IP at a discount.
Oh, yeah.
So Archer beats out Joby for buying the Lillium eVTOL patents. So Archer bought 300 patents, including ducted fans, propellers, engines, and more. That's a lot of damn patents for about $21 million. These all came.
They estimate that Lillium, I won't call it Lillium invested well over $1 billion to develop that technology. So they got it at a bargain.
Yeah, I'm actively shopping for deals like this in a different space.
Right.
And anyways, this is, it's interesting to see when stuff like this, but this is kind of like what I was talking about with Mullen earlier. Now, Mullen's in bad shape, but they bought the Nikola assets at a discount, and they bought those other assets at a discount. And I feel they made a good move. They just really didn't have the cash to capitalize on that.
Yeah.
And they really didn't have, we brought the guys on from Longbow Motors, right?
Yep.
So the Longbow Motors, they don't plan on selling a lot of cars, right? They plan on maybe hoping sell a few thousand a year, right?
Yeah.
Was their goal. But they're really focused. They have two models that aren't that different from each other, right? And
one's an enclosed cabin, the other one's an open cabin. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, two sports cars, that's what they're going to do. They're in the EV space. They're not running a million production lines. This is one thing with Mullen. They were trying to make a race car. They were trying to make an EV that looked like a Porsche Macan. I mean, an SUV that looked a little like a Porsche Macan. It looked really nice. And then they were trying to make Class 3 trucks, vans, all these other stuff.
Yeah.
And they really needed to focus on on one item. In my mind, the space that really hasn't been hit yet, at least in the United States, is a true electric Jeep looking vehicle. This is why I was hoping like the VinFast was going to bring, the Suzuki Samurai looking.
The little one, yeah.
Yeah, I think that would have been a real big hit because that style vehicle has a lot of fan base and could do real well in the United States. You know what I mean? It's like the thing with the little trucks. The little trucks, to most people, it's like that should sell because it's something people would have as a second vehicle. Even if it was electric and all their other vehicles are gas, they might buy that and get into the electric vehicle space just because of what that vehicle is and can do,
right.
Because that niche isn't well served in the United States right now in gas vehicles. Never mind electric. It's not served well in gas vehicles either. And I think that Stellantis is overpriced Jeeps. Okay. So at the moment, to me, it would seem ripe to come into the Jeep space with something. But
by the way, Jeep is rolling out. They've already rolled out a the Grand Wagoneer or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was talking to the wife of a gentleman who's running for local. He's running for Congress here in town.
Mm-hmm.
So I was talking to his wife, and apparently they have just bought a Jeep. I think it's Grand Wagoneer, and she told me that it was all electric. I'm not sure or whether it's a plug-in hybrid electric, but their Jeep has just also announced that they're rolling out now which is the next one? I can't keep track of all the different Jeep brands, but the one that is going to be it's a longer version of the whichever brand Jeep it is. But anyway, that's going to be all electric.
Nice.
So they're actually beginning to get into that space. Just probably in hindsight, a little more. Let's take it and pace it, depending on what happens with the market going forward. So
I'm thinking more of competing with the Wrangler and the Gladiator, as opposed to the other the big larger sedans. SUVs that compete with the Ford Explorer and the Chevy Tahoe.
Right.
Because that Grand Wagoneer is basically a Chevy Tahoe. I mean, it's real similar vehicle. Yeah. It's gotten to be a land monster or whatever. No, I'm just saying but when you go back to the old two-door style Wrangler Jeep, I feel that market is underserved, and I don't see why an EV maker couldn't put one of those out for sale in the United States for $40,000 or less. And I don't think you can buy a Jeep Wrangler. So when people say Jeep, and I say Jeep, I mean,
Right.
like a Wrangler or a Willys, kind of looking vehicle that I think would still have a good following. And that once again, that price point is shot up to closer to $60,000. And I think when Stellantis acquired Jeep, it was the most profitable part of Chrysler.
Yeah.
And they raised prices even more, trying to make it even more premium. And I think that really hurt them. And Stellantis is having to pull back on that a little bit. But I'm just saying that this was one that's kind of underserved. But I got onto this while talking about Joby buying Lillium's assets.
Right. Yes.
And because I segued into Mullen, and I'm
Right.
like, Mullen needs to find one thing,
that niche.
and the Bollinger vehicles have a little bit of that look.
I think
they have a little bit of the Jeep look, but I'm just saying you need something, bring it to market, get it popular. That one, like what Rivian's done with the R1T and the R1S. Now they're coming in with cheaper models,
right?
And that makes a lot of sense. But
I interviewed the founder of Bollinger back when they first rolled out, and I was curious as to why did you design? I'm sorry, but it looks like a Land Rover, right? And he said, well, that's where we see the market going, and I just assumed that was an area that they were going to grow in, and whatever the reasons were, they just have never been able. The Rivian came in,
but Rivian went the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, the Rivian looks like a Range Rover product.
Yeah.
And I see people all the time. They'll ask, "Oh, who makes Rivian?" Like, well, Rivian. And
exactly.
Is it a Ford or
right.
Is it a British company? No, it's
a company.
It's a U.S. company.
Yep.
And they just don't make a lot of vehicles. But anyways, back to the whole thing with
Joby and Archer.
Yeah. So, but it's Archer that got them, not Joby.
Right. But, Archer got them. Right.
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of them is Toyota and one of them is Stellantis. I can't keep them straight as far as who their big investors are. Right. And they're basically making flying cars. So we call them eVTOLs, but essentially they're flying cars. It's generally, they may have a pilot, they may not. Eventually they probably won't. They'll have 4 or 5 seats and not much different than a car. And they'll provide a service much like an Uber.
Except they go this way and and then this way.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people who really believe this space is going big. Lillium spent $1.5 billion developing these technologies. Yeah. And Lillium went bankrupt because one of their investors, who was supposed to put in money, ran out of money or something happened and they didn't do it. Yeah. And they had all this,
and they kept relying on they kept going to the German government for handouts, and the German government said, hey, enough is enough. We just we can't help you anymore.
Yeah. Now Archer is hoping to be able to operate in the 2028 Olympic Games in Los Angeles and actually be running passengers around by that time. That's a little over 2.5 years away. And
I think they've started the initial process for their FAA certification too.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. But it's sad to see Lillium go. But on the flip side, those assets probably be well used by Archer.
It would be. I mean, of all of the VTOLs out there, designs, that one intrigued me and gave me the most hope because it is so innovative. It is so 22nd century, maybe by the 23rd century, we'll figure out anti-gravity and we won't need any of that stuff. But in the meantime, I loved it. when I looked at the numbers they were projecting, I thought this beats everybody else. They've got, unfortunately, whatever the management obstacles and the financing and so on, they went bankrupt once and they got revived, and then they obviously went bankrupt again and they had to sell their assets. So I'm hoping that out of this, that Archer will figure out how to adapt some of that, particularly ducted fan technology,
Mhm.
to ongoing projects. Because I'm just not a big fan of these things whirling around in space. I mean, I have a little tiny drone, and it
Mhm.
scares the bejeebers out of me when it comes up, with those blades. I
Mhm.
said, ah. So I can't imagine blades this big whirling out there, within a few inches of the cockpit or the passenger area. But anyway, yeah. So let's see that hopefully some of that technology will find its way, going forward.
Yeah. So another company called Velocopter had gone, or Volocopter had gone
Also
bust
went bankrupt.
earlier this year, and
Yeah.
a Chinese company, the Chinese parent company of Georgia manufactured Diamond Aircraft, bought their um, assets for about $11 million.
Okay.
And this company Diamond is developing something called the EDA-40, a derivative of the DA-40 trainer. Don't know exactly what that is. Another company in the U.S. called Overair had struggled, and they got bought out by Archer. Purchased most of their stuff back in August, including a 60,000 square foot manufacturing plant. Joby had bought the assets of Blade Urban Air Mobility for 125 million in August. So there's certainly some consolidation going
Right.
on, seeing what's going on here. And this is, like I said, this is one of the things I'm doing in the other energy industry
Right.
that we're
Looking for
actively
those little
looking.
jewels.
Yeah, we're actively looking for a reactor technology to acquire.
Yeah.
So there's already been a few of those sales that have occurred, and it's just out of the blue. There's a lot of people out there developing, and a lot of those people aren't going to be able to get all their funding they need.
Right.
And sadly, that's the way a lot of things fall.
Yeah.
You got to be
Yeah.
able to raise money, and you got to be able to get things done. There was a kind of a funny article about Tesla. A Texas Tesla driver shares his first electric bill in 12 months, and people can't believe the fee is real.
Yeah.
Now, this guy has a Tesla Powerwall, and I think he's got Tesla solar. This is something I wasn't real clear about, if his solar was from Tesla. But so he, uses solar to charge and
Right.
fill up his Tesla battery, and then fill up his Tesla car. And in 12 months, he spent $2.37 on his electric bill, and that includes the house and the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Good for
which
him.
isn't the
That's
case here, because
fantastic.
here you got to pay $30 a
Oop.
month just to be connected to the grid. Did I go weird again? Am I
Me
back?
or you?
I hear you. Am I quiet? Oh no. Let's see. I don't know if it's me or it's Bill, because I hear Bill. Can anybody in the comments tell me if you hear both of us?
Okay, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm not aware of any problem on my end. Okay, people hear both of us. It's so Bill's audio.
Oh, nothing.
No, yeah,
Nope.
it's your ears.
Zero.
Yeah. All right, it's Bill's
Testing 1, 2,
audio.
3. Where's
Anyways,
there's my
I'll go
mic.
ahead and keep
Okay.
going. It's not your mic. But let's see. Both are fine.
All right.
Yeah, I've got people said. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, Bill's obviously having some audio problems, but this Powerwall costs at least $10,000 plus installation, but it doesn't say how much the guy of solar this guy has. So, um, anyways, but still, it's pretty impressive that he had for the whole year. His only cost for electric beyond his solar for his car and his house was $2.37.
Oh,
All right.
I
Don't know
don't
what's
hear you.
going on.
Sorry. I don't know if anybody else can. Now I hear
Um,
both. Really?
yeah. Um, yeah. That's
Okay.
frustrating.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. We hear
Oh
both.
well.
Bill, it is your headset. Anyways, so Lucid stock falls after record deliveries, which is kind of crazy. So Lucid delivered more cars in the third quarter, delivered 4,078 cars, which is a quarterly record and a 47% year over year increase. It, now, compared to Tesla, Tesla delivered 500,000 vehicles during the same time span. Ford sold almost 31,000 EVs in the third quarter, up about 30% year over year, which was about 6% of Ford's car sales.
Not a thing.
GM sold, we still hear you. GM sold 67,000, up 110%. Yeah, sorry. I was having problems. My problem earlier was the Google Chrome. It wasn't actually my audio or anything else. It was a Chrome problem. Now Bill's having problems. His headset just went out, I think. But so there was a lot of these sales were obviously due to the tax credits in the U.S. going, but Lucid dropped to about $22 on their stock. Although let's see where we're at today. This news was a little late because today we're looking at $19.89. That's still up a lot. Lucid was down to like $3 less than a year ago. Rivian was down below around $8 at one point, or $13.40. You know, it's interesting to see where some of these stocks have headed to. Anyways, it looks like Bill's making his way back to us. Let me see what we've got in these other stocks. AMD, NVIDIA, staying about the same.
I'm back.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
It was your headset. It was your headset. You simply couldn't hear us. But anyways, let's see. Oh man, New Scale's down 10% today.
Yeah, I saw that.
Nano
Rivian's up.
Yeah, Rivian's up. Nano's down 4%, which they've been the one that's really been rocketing in the last little bit. It's interesting that the nuclear stocks are so volatile from day to day. I mean, they'll fluctuate anywhere from 1% to 20% in a single day, and you just don't really see that kind of volatility in most stocks. But they keep going up, you know, so that's a big plus. But it was interesting for Lucid to have record deliveries and have their price go down. But I think some of that is also the end of the tax credits. I think that's hurt, you know, the EV industry to a certain extent, because people are going to think that that's it. You know, it's probably going to hurt U.S. sales. It's certainly not going to hurt international sales. So I guess it depends on how much of each company's sales are overseas at the moment. And the funny thing is, so Lucid's off to a great start with their SUV. So they sold out of the online inventory within 24 hours of posting it.
Yeah.
Consumers are so impressed with the 3-row luxury EV, with sales potentially forcing Lucid to strategically modify its supply chain approach. Our daily order rate has doubled, according to Mark Winterhoff. And
great.
Let's see. Wow, it's got an estimated 450-mile range. 14-minute fast charging, 828 horsepower. Has has 6,000-pound towing capacity. That's pretty amazing. It's new. Oh, so it's new SUVs drawing comparisons to the Cadillac Escalade IQ. The potential consumer base is small and the inventory is limited. The Gravity's early success is a further indicator of the growing popularity and success of EVs. It's interesting to see where Lucid is going. Let me see. We talked about. Okay, so we've got an article about Xpeng. So we've started including Xpeng, I noticed on the website, as one of the daily stocks to follow, or daily news companies to follow. And we've got a couple of them that are really not US based. This truly is world news. But Xpeng's European sales went up 49% in September. And they've surged year over year 71% as the company has doubled its presence on the continent. They keep expanding into Southern and Eastern Europe. They just begun sales in the UK, Ireland, Iceland, and Finland. A year ago, they were already in Norway, Denmark, Sweden, the Netherlands, Germany, Belgium, Luxembourg, and France. So they're adding more and more companies, or more and more countries. The vehicles are only produced in China at the moment. So deliveries are subject to arrival of cargo ships coming to Europe. Let's see. Now, their Norwegian sales fell 19%. So in Norway in September, 98.3 of vehicles sold in September were fully electric. 98.3.
Good for
them.
Yeah, what was the other news? There was some other news. What was that out of Norway? I just posted. Oh, I don't remember what it was. The Norwegian Electric Power Company? I don't know. Anyway, there's some other news that came out. It'll be in the RS stream.
Norway's aggressively pushing for electric planes. I
remember what it was. Okay. So there's a story in there about Norled, which is the Norwegian ferry company. And they invested a lot of money in a hydrogen powered ferry called the MF Hydra. And apparently that has been a financial disaster, costing them far more money to build and operate that hydrogen-powered ferry than it would have cost them. Interestingly, it even produced more CO2 than the diesel ferries. But they found that if they had put the money into an electric ferry instead, it would have been far more cost-effective than putting all that money into hydrogen. So there again, another example of what role can we expect to see hydrogen playing in the future? I don't know. It doesn't look all that encouraging.
So I see a lot of talk about hydrogen in different spaces for helping with, AI data centers. A lot of the thing with a lot of the AI data centers, they want to add something to make them look greener. Okay. So a lot of them are trying to have something in their electrical generation appear as green as possible.
This is why Bloom has been doing so well.
Oh, yeah.
If I recall. Yeah, they're rocking because they're selling their hydrogen fuel cells to data centers. And of course, what you don't understand is that fuel for the fuel cells is actually just natural gas that they have taken and steam rectified, and then they're off-gassing the CO2 and using the hydrogen for the fuel cell. We actually had that here in Omaha in 2 locations. The zoo the Henry Dorley Zoo had a fuel cell that was powering. They were using not only the power, but also, I think, the heat off of the fuel cell for conditioning the air in the aquarium or something like that. And then the World Herald was using it for a backup source for their presses. So we had two of those, but they're both being fed by natural gas because there is no natural hydrogen or green hydrogen available here in the area.
So about less than 2 weeks ago, a company called Terra Innovatum out of Italy went public by reverse merger SPAC on the NASDAQ, and they make a 1 megawatt reactor that produces 5 megawatts of thermal. Okay.
Sure.
Now, I haven't really looked real hard at their technology, but it's large. So, and a lot of the reactor technology I've looked at, a 1 megawatt reactor would be about 2 cubic meters in size. Okay, so about 6.5 feet by 3 feet 3 inches.
Yeah,
roughly.
easily fit in the corner of my room here.
Right. But theirs takes a 20-foot shipping container. Okay, so theirs is much larger. And that's because they're also producing the 5 megawatts of heat. So the heat energy or the thermal energy can be used for creating hydrogen.
Right.
And so
steam reformation.
Right. So I keep seeing these ideas of creating hydrogen, but hydrogen is difficult to store and it's difficult to ship. And so there's all these considerations with hydrogen that, people are like, oh, you can make it for free. And it's like, yeah, but you've got to use it. You got to use it right where it's created or you have enormous costs. This is one of the things that when we talk about electricity, we talk about this all the time. It's not the making of the electricity, whether it's nuclear, wind, LNG, solar, whatever. It's the cost of infrastructure and transmission, getting it to people. And that is one of the big problems with hydrogen. You can potentially make it cheaply at the source, and then the cost to get it to the end user might be enormous compared. Right. And so the economics just suck. I mean, it's just flat out. We keep seeing hydrogen stations close. We keep seeing all of these hydrogen projects, which they seem like great ideas. But when I keep hearing people bring up hydrogen, I'm just kind of like this. Yeah. Because I'm like, please prove me wrong. I'd love to see hydrogen do well. Yeah. It's not like a dislike of it. It's just economically.
It is not a fuel. This is one of the things I learned very early on. It is, we assume it's like gasoline. It's just a different form of gasoline. No, it's not a fuel. It is an energy carrier. And you have to somehow take and put energy into it to get it to do what you want it to do. For example, use electrolysis. You got to get the electricity from somewhere to break up the hydrogen and oxygen bonds in water so that you can use that hydrogen for something. That takes energy. It's just simply an energy carrier. It is not a fuel. That being said, then what is that hydrogen that they're finding, for example, in parts of France and Yugoslavia or places like that? They're finding this white hydrogen, that apparently is being naturally formed. Well, you still have the problem. How do you collect it? How do you transmit it? How do you store it? Right? Well, that's the costs.
It was kind of like what I was talking about nuclear fusion. They figured out how to make fusion reactions a few times a year, but it needs to be occurring 10 times per second to make it commercially viable. And so it's like you have to be able to come up with the containment system, just all these things, they have to be addressed to go from, like Livermore Labs has done 10 successful fusion reactions that generated more electricity than they used to create the transaction out of literally, out of probably thousands of transactions or out of thousands of attempts, they've done 10.
Right.
But they have to get it to where they can successfully do 10 per second.
Yep.
And instead of 10 every 3 years. And they can't have all of the failures, right? So they have to eliminate the failures and make it so it's just cranking it out like that to make it worthwhile. And it's interesting because everybody's telling me about how this is happening and this is happening. And it's like, well, that's not exactly how it works. And it's like the thing with hydrogen. It's just like the thing with fusion. I want to see both happen, but will it happen anytime soon? I think there may be some ways, and there's some really smart people out there.
In 30 years, it will. We'll have it down. 30
right.
years.
That's what we've been saying for 30 years, right? That's what they were saying in 1980 or something like that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
We'll have it within 30 years, and here we are 40 years later, and it's still, I do think, with AI and everything is accelerating how things are being invented. Some of the stuff that we're doing now with AI, I never had a clue something like this was coming around the bend in 10 years, 10 years ago. And I can't believe some of the quality of work. I mean, I have people all the time, they know I'm doing the stuff with AI, but it's like, I can't believe your AI put this out, created this. So
it's amazing, man.
It is.
I asked it to write those 2 stories on, for the website today. Damn, I just here's what I want you to talk about. Here are the parameters I want you to do it in. Write me a story. And then I read the story. It says, damn, this is really good.
Yeah. Looking at a company to purchase, and I put in all of their financial docs, all kinds of other stuff into one of the AIs I use. And it came up with this huge list of questions to go back. And it even was like, if they answer it in this tone, you should walk away. But if they answer in this tone, it's a good thing. And it was even telling me like what to look for in the answers. If their answers were this, or it's like, we're not sure or whatever, then clearly this isn't the deal you want to get involved in. But it was really interesting because it was like giving advice on every little possible, not just what the question should be, but if their answers are this, it's good. But if they phrase it in this way, this might be a red flag or something like that. I mean, it was like crazy how much information it was giving. And I just look at some of the things that I am able to do. To have put together the level of what it cranked out would have taken weeks. I mean, literally at least probably 2 weeks of work, and it did it in a few minutes.
Yeah.
And this is some, it would have cost to have somebody, if you'd had a lawyer prepare all this, it would have been probably $20,000+ maybe $50,000 of billable work. Yeah. And it just cranked it out. I mean, it's just crazy.
I know it's amazing. Now, just make sure that you don't, that you're comfortable with it, and you've, had it basically proofed, because who was it had to pay back several $1 million down in Australia for one of the big consulting firms, right? Gave this report to, I don't know, the government down there or somebody, and they found all these errors in it, and they said, you owe us money. So,
well, I had this even in that report. I had it somehow it doubled the company's accounts receivable. And I was like, how did you? And I figured out how it did. It read a spreadsheet. It read some lines wrong, but I had already reviewed these numbers. These were critical numbers in terms of the project. So I went back and was like, no, you're getting this. You're adding, because the way the numbers were lined up, it was taking the total and adding different stuff back in. You do have to, with AI, you have to check its math. And so if you're bad at math, AI is not your math solution. If you're good at math, then you can tell it the right things to do. And you should be able, I can eyeball when AI is making mistakes in math. Okay. So that really helps. But because I already kind of know it's, the number's going to be ballpark. It should be around, say, $400,000. Notice in my head, and then all of a sudden it'll show a number of $800,000, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense. And then I'll look, and it's like, oh, this is what it did. It didn't redo the math after we changed a different calculation. So I'm just saying it's important stuff. But anyways, folks, we're kind of rambling on. Hopefully this is interesting to somebody. Anyways, sometimes I
Well, thank
wonder.
you for those of
Yeah,
you that hung around through
yeah,
our glitches and
yeah. No, we
wayward
do
diversions
discussions.
and
Anyways, all right. Well, I'll be back with engineer Mike Herzog tomorrow, and Bill, we should be good for Friday as well.
should
Okay.
be. Yeah.
All right. All right. See you guys. Everybody, thanks for watching.